Good day, Internet. Hey, Internet.
What's going on, Internet?
How's it going?
Hey.
I realize I forgot to plug the show on X. So I'm going to do that right now. What should I say? Help
Is that
me
that
write
one
my
formerly
tweets.
known as Twitter? Is that the one?
That's the one. I still see tweets. I just, a post on X is just, I get it.
But
it all means
Sarah's
the same
Tech
thing.
Show, formerly known as DTNS.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Not saying that. Join us live on Daily.
The show formerly known as DTNS Live. Still known as DTNS
It's
Live.
DTNS
it's
Live.
Also,
That's what
used to be
it
known
was.
as
It's only
DTNS
been
Live.
named DTNS Live for a few months now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess half
Yeah.
a year at this point.
Yeah.
Has
it
it
used to
been?
be DTNS
Jeez.
Live, and it's still DTNS Live, but
Yeah.
the show formerly known as DTNS Live.
We need a symbol like Prince.
Yeah.
We need like a.
Yeah, we officially unveiled it at CES, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Right after CES? Right in that area, yeah.
What would its symbol be? I guess it has a logo. It could be that.
Yeah, but you can read it. You can't just, it can't be something you can read. It's something you have to read into.
Daily Tech News Show.
It took me years to.
/live. Yeah, I got it. Okay, well, I just sent a
years to-
weird tweet out to the world, and you know what? I have no regrets.
No, do it. Own it,
No
Sarah.
regrets
Own
at
it.
all. I'm going to. You know what?
Yeah,
Let's
that's the way
make
to
Twitter
live.
weird again.
Yep, I agree. First, let's start
It's
by calling
probably
it
still
Twitter.
very weird. But every time I'm there, I'm just like, it's because I don't pay to get ad stripped, and the app on Mac, which is the way that I used to use Tweetbot, it works mostly well, but sometimes you have to go to the web because it's weird, and the web is just like, I'm going through my feed, and I'm like, every third tweet is an ad, which is marked as an ad. It's not tricking me, and I'm just like, ugh. I get so sick of it so much quicker than I used to.
I don't remember them. I thought the app got deprecated or killed or something. Didn't
No, it still exists,
it? Okay.
but
Tweetbot got killed.
yeah,
Well, I knew that, but did they rebrand the X one to be
It's
to look like?
it's called X for Mac.
Okay.
It's there.
It's been a while since I looked.
Yeah, I mean I use it, but
been
it
a while
can be
since it's been on
wonky with stuff. Like search is very weird. You're like, how am I searching? Where's the search bar? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I have qualms with lots of other companies too. So it's not just an X problem.
No.
I miss the old TweetDeck. The old
dude.
one when it was like its own thing.
Yeah, me too.
And that
I loved
application
it.
was awesome.
TweetDeck in its original form and its original vision was so perfect for what I wanted then.
Yeah.
Like once in a while you get something
TweetDeck
that's just
would-
like dead on.
Its use case was me,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
so
me
many
too.
people felt that way. I felt like TweetDeck was just like if you use it as intended, it's like you're like power using Twitter, which
Kinda,
is
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I remember I had this one colleague at an old office job, and just from my desk I could see his monitor, and it was just like a TweetDeck extravaganza, and things are scrolling in real time, and I'm just like, how do you live? And he's like, I need it. I need this information.
It's like seeing the Matrix on your monitor.
Yeah, it was like pro level TweetDeck.
Yeah.
Back when I was still working in corporate, it was a marketing person that I went into their office and saw their TweetDeck and was just in awe of. They had like 19 conversations going on simultaneously.
Jeez.
I'm like, how are you doing this? It's like, oh, TweetDeck. And they showed me how to set it up. And this is back in the day when you didn't just use your account. You had a brand for every single thing you talked about on the internet. So I think I probably had 6 or 7 different Twitter accounts, and TweetDeck made that possible.
It was the only way to do it. I mean, there were some paid things, but I remember that being just so easy to do. Switching between accounts was easy. I had one for, I don't know, I had 10 shows at one point. I had one for every show. I don't know why I did all that.
And they could all be sitting side by side, so you could see all the
Yeah.
comments. Stuff like that. Yeah, it was great.
And you could reply from any one of them, change who you're replying from, and
Yep.
it was great.
You know,
That-
if
that got
anyone
weird.
works at Meta and has insight into what's going on with threads, that is a feature that I would love, to be able to be in one account and reply from another account. I don't know if people realize how useful that is. But you want to say something, but they have to literally log out and log into another account.
Yeah.
To be able to do that is.
If I could easily switch from my main profile on Instagram to my professional photographer profile, if I could just do that in less than like 5 clicks, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So if I could have both of them up at the same time, that'd be amazing for me.
It's almost like they don't want you to do that stuff. And I don't know why. I don't know why they don't want me to, but I do feel that when I'm in those places.
Yeah,
it's like you're making it hard for me to do anything. They just want me to be one hot girl dancing and have one account for everyone to glom onto.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't want me doing...
They want you to be a hot girl dancing?
Oh, yeah. They do. Instagram in particular, that's what
I'd
they
like to
want.
see.
They want me to be hot, young, and dancing. It's not going to happen
and
on any of
barely
those counts.
clothed.
Yeah, barely. They don't want anything hardly on me.
No.
At least that's my impression when I go there. That's what they want out of me.
Yep.
And I'm in there going, where's all the art and
Or
animation?
at least that's what they're trying to inspire me to become.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while the algorithm's like, hey, have you tried this lifestyle?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
No.
I
Too
keep. I don't even
There's
want to say
a
that
small period of time in the 90s, but not since then.
I don't even want to say that I don't like that stuff because it's like I don't know. Live your life, everybody. Just
Oh, yeah, of course.
do whatever. But yes, there's certain content that I'm like, this is just scroll. Don't want it. Don't care.
Yep.
I'm not looking at the yacht and the bikini. I'm just not doing it.
But they forget that I very quickly spin past that stuff sometimes and go, hey, I know you flicked past these so fast before that you really wanted the algorithm to ignore this. And so we did for about a week. But what if we put one in now? And it's like, no. TikTok's better at that for me. It's better at knowing what I didn't hang around for and where I actually went.
Well,
and it doesn't try to sneak stuff in.
We were talking about that yesterday on the show.
I just want to say you're confirming some stuff that I think Tom was saying, that you've actually got to use it so that it knows what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Threads,
that about TikTok.
Instagram is really good at instead of trying to insert the stuff that it knows I don't want to see into my feed, it gives me that up front. So as soon as I open the app, that's the thing that comes up. Then I have to scroll away from it.
Yeah.
So
2-minute warning.
I'll tell you, my dog Otis, he's not on TikTok. He's just not ready for that yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
But he does have his own Instagram account, Otis Redding Lane. Please follow him. He'd enjoy it. But I opened it up just now because I meant he uses his Instagram account. I do not.
You
Obviously,
assist.
I have my own. We have our own separate accounts.
Sure.
But the first video is a video of Seven the dog eating what looks like a hot dog and also biting his own foot. And
Oh,
that's
goodness.
the content I want.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
I mean, what Otis wants. Otis
Right.
wants that.
It's what I
And
want.
Otis is going to go ahead and like it.
Me and
There
your
we
dog
go.
agree. We want the same things. I want funny pet videos. I want
Funny pet videos. It's like I can't get enough.
No, I can't.
I know there's
1
probably folks
minute.
out there who are like, not for me.
hey, we were talking about old stuff. I just got a new radio, the old walkie-talkie
Oh my gosh.
to use at work. And it's unlocked so I can listen to basically everything.
Can you do
And I got
police
this
like
big
police
antenna.
bands and stuff? Like
I
emergency
can,
band?
but they're all trunked around here. But I do have my local fire department 911 operation center plugged in.
Also,
So-
I love the material they make that antenna out of. The way you were wiggling it. Do you know what I'm saying? There's
30
like it's
seconds.
sturdy, like almost like solid heavy rubber. I love
Yeah.
those. That's
Yeah.
a weird thing to be into, but I think a good sturdy antenna that's also flexible is my ASMR. I know that sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but I mean it. I love it.
And seconds. What's spit check, Scott?
I'm going to choke on myself over here.
It's all-
Have a good show, everybody.
Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
Right here in Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And from north of the wall, I'm Amos.
DTNS Live is made possible by its listeners thanks to all of you, including Michelle Sergiu, Kirk Stephenson, Miranda Janelle, and Russell Backer.
Yay! Thank you to everybody who supports us. And for those of you joining us live, welcome. This is DTNS Live. It's the show for people who like live things, although you get it later if you so desire. We do it all. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it as we go through it a little bit better. Scott Johnson, how the heck are you?
Oh, I'm so busy. There's so much going on. This is Games Fest week. You know, when E3 was around, you had a whole week of E3. Well, that went away. So Jeff Keighley and his little production company swooped in and said, what if we took it over and made something called Games Fest? Now I'm looking down the barrel of like 3.5, 4 days of constant streams and info dumps, and I may go a little crazy. So wish me luck on that front.
I mean, at least it's content that you care about, right?
I do really enjoy it, yeah. So it's stuff I care about. It's fun to kind of riff on, make a little fun of, have a good time with, and then try to sleep and keep it all out of your dreams.
And I know, Rob, you're taking a trip to the old Southwest.
Yeah, I'm going to where it is really hot right now, but we could talk about that later. What we got to do right now is, Amos, I need you to bring up that radio and wiggle it again, just so we can hear Scott Johnson.
Yeah, look at this
at the
thing.
beginning of the show.
Look at that thing. Now, I know there's only, a lot of you are listening. You have audio going, and you're not seeing what's happening here. But
It looks like a walkie-talkie with a very big worm attached to it.
Yeah. And I love a wiggly walkie-talkie antenna. I can't explain it. They're like hunting down John Rambo with that thing. I love it. I love it. Bring it every time.
It's a far cry from the mini one that I have over here.
Yeah,
the little stubby.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
what happened to
trash? I like the wiggly one.
Exactly. Bring back big antennas, man. No more of this 5G connected everything, no antenna showing. I want to go back to the old days.
Oh my gosh! Remember when like the cool cars had the antenna out the back?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't that
yeah.
long, but it was like, oh, that's a cool car.
Yeah.
They
People
probably
would
have a
break
cell phone in there.
People would break them off. It was kind of a problem, but
Yeah.
we had what we had and we liked it.
And
Well,
real quick,
retro
I
is
just want
new
to
again.
remind anybody that's currently watching that if they haven't lately, they should break out Dungeon Murder. And
Play a game of
have
that.
a go.
Yeah.
Play a little Dungeon Murder while
Look
you're
at you representing. I don't know who made that game, but it is fantastic and worth your time.
Well, everyone, if you are listening or watching live, remember you can help name this episode. Head on over to dtns.showbot.tv, submit a title, vote on others. They get propagated through the show. So there's nothing right now because we haven't really talked about anything yet. But it gets fun as we get into it. So please join us if you can in that fun game that we do, and we'll check back in on the votes at the end of the show. Now, let's kick it off with top 3 stories of the day. Everyone's favorite April buddy, the IRS, has open-sourced its DirectFile tax software. This is significant, potentially. It comes as the program faces potential shutdown from lobbying by Intuit and provisions and a new government budget bill. Several key developers behind DirectFile are now said to be exploring some free, streamlined tax filing through the Economic Security Project's new fellowship. So, open sourcing tax software. I'm for it. Let's see what you got. Open sourcers.
Intuit is so upset about this. They did not want this to happen because the software that the IRS put out is actually really good. People truly enjoyed using it. Now it's just open source. So you're going to probably see a lot of small companies that are going to say, hey, let's just take that stuff and let's go see if we can compete with Intuit. In a memo, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella revealed that LinkedIn CEO Ryan Roslansky will now oversee Microsoft's Office products like Word and Excel, as well as the Copilot AI product, while remaining CEO of LinkedIn. Roslansky will report to Rajesh Jha, who oversees Windows and Teams. Additionally, Charles Lamanna, head of Copilot for business users, will also report to Jha, and existing office leaders Sumit Chauhan and Gaurav Serene will also be under Jha's supervision. So it's a little weird here. It's like the social media platform in Office.
Yeah, it's like an office of office runners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all of these are things I mean, Copilot AI obviously is an AI product, so that's a forward pointing thing. But a lot of this is very legacy stuff. And it's interesting to see all that get lumped in and, reported at the same place.
Whenever I hear a story about a CEO who I assume has a very busy job, also keeping that job but taking on what would also be a very busy job, I'm like, I don't know. Okay, superhuman that you are. But this leads me to believe that LinkedIn is going to get a lot of more, I don't know, legacy Microsoft products embedded into LinkedIn itself.
I don't know. I mean, LinkedIn is, I mean, it's a big social media platform. It's not like that is an insignificant thing that Microsoft does. So Office products are absolutely huge for Microsoft. So just the joining of those two things doesn't make sense in my mind. But you know what? I don't think that Satya Nadella called me up and asked. So he's like, this is what we're doing now. So we'll see how it works.
AMC Networks has signed a deal with Runway. Runway makes AI products to use Runway's generative tools for things like marketing assets and pre-visualizing unproduced shows. So this is essentially AMC saying, we don't know if this is worth, green lighting. Let's make something that looks, pretty cool so that we can get feedback on it and not pay humans to do it. AMC obviously wants to cut production costs. They're not the only company to do that, and also keep quality. So that's what Runway is in there for. It also has declining profits and just changes in viewer habits overall. Lionsgate, Fox, and some other companies have previously announced partnerships with Runway. So I wonder if AMC is like, I just want to keep up, or I've seen some nice stuff that they've done with Lionsgate, or we just want to cut costs. Probably all three.
Yeah, some of this sounds like it's just straight up, hey, here's a quick animatic of what we think this pilot would look like, and this isn't going to be indicative of the final quality. Certainly we don't have our casting done or anything else, but here's a rough look at it that may give people a better idea. Like, think of it as a sketch before you get the final painting. If that painting's not going to go anywhere, why go through all the trouble of finishing the painting? I can actually see why this would save a lot of time, a lot of potential money. There's still controversy in, what the stuff's trained on, therefore who owns what and why do they get to use it while the people who created the stuff it's trained on don't. But all of that aside, from a workflow perspective, this kind of stuff makes sense to me.
So sounds to me like one producer was like, no, but you don't understand. You don't see it quite right. Just one too many times. I'm like, fine, I'm just doing it this way. And I can actually see it.
Also, you're dealing with suits who aren't very visual sometimes. They just start saying, well, where's the money? And if you can very quickly get to a place where they can get a better image of what you're trying to sell them, you're going to probably get your project greenlit faster. That's the idea anyway. We'll see if it works for them.
Well, those are the top 3 stories of the day that caught our eye. Moving on to discussions now.
So Samsung recently published a blog post where it teased a Galaxy Z Fold Ultra device as the next chapter of Ultra. It included an animation of a phone that has a form factor similar to a Z Fold, maybe a little bit bigger, and would sport the capabilities and hardware of the Galaxy S Ultra. This got me to thinking, if it's close to the size of a Galaxy S Ultra, it has a stylus maybe. It didn't say that it had one, but if it were to, this could be the device that would get me to look at a foldable, because for me, I've always kind of wanted a fold, but I didn't want to actually have less hardware in the Fold than I have in the Ultra, which I've been using since they were calling those things Notes. So this is just, like I said, it got me to thinking maybe I would want one. And it also got me to wondering, granted, Apple does not have a foldable yet. There's rumored to be some coming out in the second half of next year. But, is it safe to say that we are, in a time where foldable phones are mainstream? Because pretty much most of the Android manufacturers, at least the big ones, they've got some kind of foldable. And people who are using foldables, they love them. They say they will never go back. So is it mainstream, or is it at least mainstream-ish? What are we talking?
I don't know. I know people love their foldables, so I'm not going to say that isn't the case. I don't feel like I see a lot of them out and about. I also probably haven't hung out in a coffee shop kind of to work and observe other people working in a while, because I work from home. So I might just be missing out on some of the stuff. I am, I'm an Apple person. So if Apple makes an iPhone foldable, I'm probably going to try it out because I can't help myself. But it's not something I'm clamoring for. I just, the only thing about the foldable that I think would have mattered a few years ago and matters less now is it's just safer when it gets thrown into a bag, or a purse or a back pocket or, that sort of thing, because I used to shatter a lot of phones. Now, I mean, still possible, but the phones, that just have the single screen are just a lot more durable. But maybe I'm just stuck in the past at this point.
Well, to me, I think there is a future here, and a lot of it just for me hinged, no pun intended, on the hinge and how well that
was
worked.
an intended pun.
Maybe it was intended. I realized as I was driving, I couldn't stop. The brakes wouldn't work, so I had to steer into my bad joke. But the idea that and those are getting better. I remember those early models were like, I can get about 600 folds out of it or something like that, and then we're well into the many thousands now. To the point that you're not even going to have that phone anymore by the time you'd ever reach such a limit. So we're getting to a better place in terms of durability, how it warps, how good it looks fully extended, and when you close it, how useful is it closed, what kind of features, that sort of stuff is being ironed out kind of in real time by these makers. Samsung's certainly spearheading this. So I don't know if anyone's ready to say that's a mainstream thing. I think for it to be mainstream, everybody pulling their phones out everywhere you see them should be these, and they're not right now. Mostly you see, even in the Android side, you see people with their, flat, regular Galaxy or equivalent phone, Pixels, whatever they may be. When you're out in public, I think when you start to see that shift is when you can start calling it mainstream. And maybe it needs all the biggest players in the market, Apple being a very absent one right now, to make that circle be whole. I don't know. And I don't even know what Apple's going to do to make me really want one, because I'm kind of like Sarah. I'm just like, do I really need this? I probably don't until you give me a reason why I might need this. But there's always been something really neat about it. And I want one out of that alone. I just kind of want I want to have the gimmick of it for a minute, but without having to pay for one yet, because again, I'm not sure what the staying power is or what the ultimate form is, because I'm pretty sure these will just get thinner. They will fold easier. They'll get larger when you unfold them. They may fold in more places than just a single hinge. Some already do, the trifolds and stuff. Like where does it stop being a phone and become a tablet? Does it matter? Like a lot of those questions are still in my mind, and I'm as excited as anybody about the outcome, but there is this hesitancy that I feel, and I don't think I'm alone.
I think you're almost in line with me. For it to become mainstream, for me to consider it to be mainstream, there needs to be a model that comes out that is a new model designed for value users. So, and I think that's the thing we're missing is when you have a foldable that comes out that is, $500, $700, something like that, which is what we can consider a value phone nowadays. Then you'll start seeing it propagate a lot more. You'll start seeing it in the public a lot more, because it won't be just a premium thing. You'll actually have a different tier of it without having to rely on old hardware to be able to afford it. And I think once that happens, once Samsung, for instance, comes out with, the foldable Ultra and the foldable A or whatever they're going to call it, once it hits that value market, even if it's the top end of the value market, I think that's when it'll become fully mainstream, and you'll start seeing it a lot more. And that'll be really the pressure point for anybody that's not making it right now, Apple. That'll be the pressure point that they'll have to go into the market at that point.
Yeah. Now, the flip from Samsung is not, it is more expensive than what you would consider to be a budget phone, but it is like the top end of a mid-range phone. And then there's other, manufacturers like Motorola's making them here in the US. They are relatively affordable, but there's a rumor out that Samsung potentially could have something called the Galaxy G Fold coming out. That is a tri-fold phone. It is going to be in limited supply, limited release. Is only going to be released if the rumors are true in South Korea and possibly China. But this thing is supposed to cost like $3,500 to $4,000.
Dang!
And I'm like, that's a grip. That's a lot of money for that. It's like I could carry the highest end tablet on earth with me, along with my super high end phone that doesn't fold, and still be significantly less than half of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was truly the one device where people didn't have a watch, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, all, kind of in the to-go bag, then okay, I can see where it's like, the price point works. But you're putting a lot of faith in that single device.
Well, here's the thing. If that device, let's say a trifold, if it exists, it would be the size of like a 11-inch, maybe even a 12-inch tablet. When you fold that thing out, is pretty big. So if it's that big, I now need to have a keyboard. There's no way that I want to be able to carry a phone that size that can fold out and then not have a keyboard to be able to interface with it. So, so what do we do? Do we go back to 2011, 2010 when those virtual keyboards that were like lasers that would laser to your flat desk? Is that what we get when you set up the tri-fold up? It actually has a laser on it and it points a keyboard down. Because I'm paying that kind of money, I'm not carrying anything extra with me. Everything that I would ever need for that, including the site-to-site transporter, needs to come included in that device for that price.
There was a load of talk with those projected keyboards at one point that they were going to include a haptic technology that you could feel, and it was going to somehow deal with electric waves or something that made your fingers actually feel a response when you would tap keys on the projected keyboard. And then I didn't hear anything about that. Like I went, people said, yep, this is on its way, and then nothing. Poof. Which tells me that this was not a great thing for it was not a great way to interface with your keyboard. Apple
Vision Pro still does this.
They do it, yeah.
You can pair it to an actual keyboard. It's not that you have to type in the sky. But I actually recorded a video that no one will ever see, so don't even ask, of me, kind of setting it up. And it's like, because I know I'm just typing into the air, it's like, I'm like a weird typer, like S-A-R-A-H. Oh, shoot. Back. R-A-H-L. I'm like, this is not a solution.
But do you have video of Otis watching you do that? Because that's what I want to see.
Oh, he's always watching. Yeah, every time I take one of my headsets off, he's just like, really? Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom.
There's probably a future though where the VR or AR or all that stuff comes to some kind of cohesion, and we won't even care about these foldables, anything. It'll all be virtual. I don't know. That's why sometimes I feel like it is a half step, but it's also, I don't know where the halfway point is. It's like hybrids with cars. I used to think, well, I'm not getting a hybrid. We'll just jump to electric. Let's go. And then you start looking at all the reasons why you are hindered a bit by getting an electric, and you're like, maybe hybrids should be a standard baseline these days. That may be what folds end up being.
I also wonder, and this is a whole other conversation for another time, but at what point does the term phone just get dropped? Cell service, or Wi-Fi over 5G. Like what? There are so many different ways that I can answer a phone call. I can answer a phone call on my watch. Now I don't have cell service on my watch, so it's paired to my phone, but I could get cell service on my watch. That's a phone. My computer in here and in my other room where my laptop is, it's a phone. I get phone calls on my computer. Don't even reach for my phone. My phone is just a small computer that has a certain form factor. So I think as we get into more of these form factors, it's like, at what point is it just a foldable and not a phone?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
think about that, everybody.
We're bumping up against that now, I think. I think that's a thing today.
All right. The Hollywood Reporter's sources say that Amazon's MGM Studios is fast-tracking a new film called Artificial about OpenAI's 2023 boardroom drama. I'm sure you can remember, it was less than 2 years ago, the one where CEO Sam Altman was abruptly fired and then rehired days later. True story. This is actually a thing that happened. So this movie is apparently based on that. Luca Guadagnino is reportedly in talks to direct. He has done a bunch of films. Call Me By Your Name is one. He's an Italian director, very well respected. Andrew Garfield, Monica Barbero, both said to be interested in lead roles. Nothing's been officially casted yet, or at least the public doesn't know about it. Filming could start as early as the summer, though. Okay, so let's say this is a movie. I think that the actual OpenAI drama that is in question here was very dramatic. It happened right before Christmas. It made no sense to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It reversed course really quickly. People got fired. The board was totally shaken up. This is a great movie, right? You think,
sure.
Yeah, this, if it's done well, this is a really interesting story. I wonder what was going on behind the scenes that nobody knew about until now. IndieWire also reports that it's going to be a comedy, which I think is very interesting because I'm not sure what was super funny about all of that to a lot of people who were involved, but let's just call it, it's a movie for now. So I wanted to ask everybody, how much do movies like this, or it could be a TV show or miniseries, anything that is portraying something that has happened in this case, the tech sector pretty recently. You know, this is
Yeah.
not like 50 years ago. Remember when OpenAI went through all that drama and we've uncovered all of the files from the company and we know stuff now. It's more of like, yeah, you know, that was kind of dramatic. Let's hire some people and do it all over again.
Yeah, like the Jobs ones, or the one specifically that was created by, I forgot the writer's name, but the one that had Magneto in it. I can't think of anyone's names today. But anyway, that's like a long time has passed. Right, the legend has grown. It's a long time to be able to go back to the Steve Jobs story. Even something like the recent Tetris movie, which just talked about the Tetris history, who owned the rights to it, the Cold War parts of it, all that. That has a bunch of time to sort of burn and find details and then build your story around it, augmenting it or not for dramatic expression. But then you have things like The Social Network that were literally 4.5 years after Facebook became a publicly accessible thing to everybody, and therefore
and
a
that's a great
mainstream movie.
example of a movie that was well received.
Yeah.
It was very entertaining. A lot of people were like, "Oh, look who's playing so and so." Yeah, we know all these players, but it's not like Facebook was sort of, back in the 70s, Facebook was a big deal, and now you don't have to have a bunch of people who are involved in this case technology like. It doesn't have to be like a posthumous biopic.
And what you're
of people or the company, but it does feel like, gosh, wouldn't it be weird to work at that company and be like, oh yeah, I guess that's supposed to be me?
You're kind of describing the fact that it doesn't have an ending yet. Like we have a great story for a beginning. That's how this will be. We don't have the ending story to AI or OpenAI's role in AI or any of that future, but we have this very interesting sort of beginning-ish story that happened within the larger story. And if they really truly want to treat it like a comedy, then give this to Adam McKay and his crew, because things like The Big Short and others, he's very, very good at doing that, of taking a very serious thing that really happened and then somehow lacing it with comedy that also helps the drama. It's hard to explain how he does it, but Adam McKay makes a living doing this. This is what his thing is. So I think that, honestly, I would just give it to him. He's your guy. Let him do, script work and direction, and aim for that if you want to. Make it more accessible if you want to. And then tell that little story within a story. Do it like 12 Angry Men. I don't need to know the whole story about the beginnings of OpenAI or AI in general or any of that. It's the story of that day in that boardroom, and then build that from there with flashbacks, forward jumps, whatever you have to do to tell that story. Well, that would be amazing. I would line up for that movie. It sounds great.
I think that's exactly how this could work, because if you think about the social network really wasn't about Facebook. It was about the people who started Facebook and a story that was being told about them in the beginning. Facebook was a character, but it wasn't the main character. And I think it would be the same thing here with with the Sam Altman story. It's not necessarily about OpenAI. OpenAI, of course, would be a character, but it's really about the people and the story that happened, that did have a complete story arc where it started and ended, and we know what the results of that thing are, and if they could make it funny, if it is going to be a comedy, and find some things that we didn't necessarily hear and in the mainstream media as it was being reported in real time. It could be very, very interesting, just very similar in the way that the Social Network was.
Yeah. I didn't watch the miniseries Super Pumped, which was based on the story of Uber. Even though Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played Travis Kalanick, I like very much as an actor, and this is not a flex, but I know Travis personally, and I haven't seen him in years, so it's not like we're BFFs, but I was like, I can't watch this. And this is definitely a me problem. Not everybody lives in Silicon Valley. For a lot of people, it's like, this is just entertainment. I don't work in that industry. I don't know what's going on in Silicon Valley. Or lots of other places, where you have a lot of, tech innovation. But it's always felt a little off to me when something gets put out there that's so close to home that you just think, like, I don't want to watch a show about using an app that I use.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm this way with certain documentaries. I'm this way with certain shows where, I have friends who can't watch medical dramas because they're in the medical world.
Totally. Yeah,
and
that's a good comparison.
You sometimes have something that will supersede that. Most of them really like The Pit because they think it adheres to some realism that most of the shows get wrong. But that's the rare example of one that works better. So I think that's always going to be a thing. It's hard to watch shows about the internet. Like, I don't know the last time you guys sat down and watched The Net with Sandra Bullock. It's
I mean,
really
I know
hard.
I've seen it, but it's been a while.
It was hard then. It's really hard now. It's just such nonsense and baloney that they don't respect the audience's brain power to understand even the basic tenets of the internet, and it's bad.
This is that, and that was obviously it was a fictional story. Mr. Robot. I had problems with that show too.
Yeah,
it was like crazy hacker can do anything underground, and I'm like, but what software is he using exactly?
Yeah, no, exactly. That show did a lot of heavy lifting with tone, right?
Yeah.
Everything else though, if you really thought too much about it, you're like, wait a minute, if that's a Unix backend and that's 30 years old, and that means this, and that. Like, if you start building that puzzle, you're gonna be really disappointed at the end of it. So you have to try to enjoy it for its tone and really park your brain. But then sometimes movies like Sneakers, they get so much right about hacking in the 70s.
Yeah.
And you just wish more movies were like that, and then they don't. So in this particular case, I think the best we can hope from this is the subject of the AI itself is not the focus. The focus is big revolution happening in tech, and this is the apex of where it happened.
Yeah.
And where it all went off the rails.
Throws me under the bus.
Yeah. That's got to be the
triumphantly
drama.
come back. Yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's like it's the makings of a great movie or a great story anyway.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want it to take so long that it becomes the facts of the case become rumor, and we're digging up the New Mexico desert hoping to find the spot where the cartridges are, because this becomes such a deep rumor, even though it's so well documented. So there is an extent to which I don't want the dramatization anymore. I just want an actual documentary. It's because it's just the past.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair.
There's an area in there. There's some
That's
leeway.
a good point. Yeah, documentary versus
a fictional
live
dramatization.
action, drama series.
Yeah.
Or dramedy, or whatever this might end up being. I mean, I am for sure believing that this is going to be a movie that's made, and yeah, it just I would like to know how everybody out there feels about this kind of stuff. Does it seem sort of like quick buck? There was some drama. Let's cast some people and just and make some money. Maybe so. Some of this probably so. All of these stories are interesting. They just feel like they're more and more frequent based on a company that is really still in its infancy. In OpenAI's case, it's like OpenAI has new news every day. This is not some company that's like, yeah, we're resting on our laurels. Remember when it was weird? It's like, no, it's weird still.
Well,
Pretty
think
weird.
if it ends up being like The Big Short or like The Social Network, those are big multi-award winning TV or films that were Oscar nominated, won a ton of Oscars. So maybe that's what this is Oscar bait more than it is a quick buck. And I think that there's real potential to make something, meaningful to a modern audience, but also all the stuff we love about movies. So we'll see if they do it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, DTNS Live is a live stream. So if you are watching us on YouTube live streaming, do us a quick favor, do us a solid, smash that like button. It does so much for the algorithm. Lets people, if you like the show, lets other people know that you like the show, and then they may come and watch us and like the show. So do us that favor. And also, if you are not subscribed, but we don't know why, but please go ahead and subscribe to DTNS Live as well.
All right, Scott. Epic's MetaHuman, not to be confused with Meta, a whole different thing, lets game devs incorporate hyper-realistic human faces into their games. It does seem impressive. Now they're making it easier. So let's talk about what they're doing.
All right. So on Tuesday at its State of Unreal show, a lot going on right now with these reveals, but this is a more technical one. Epic revealed that MetaHuman Creator is now part of Unreal Engine 5.6, and moving forward, it will be part of the suite. It's a tool, just the brief of it is, it's a tool that lets devs make hyper-realistic faces in video games or other applications, by the way, like film, TV. There's other use cases for this. It isn't just gaming. And they've extended the ability for it to work with bodies, like entire human, phony humans. It's not just their faces anymore. Developers will be able to create faces and bodies with fine-tuned parameters for their games and applications. So this particular tool is designed as now integrated to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Massively increase or decrease the time it takes to do this normally. The old way of doing this is either hand animating everything or lots and lots of mocap, which involves a lot of time shooting, a lot of time reshooting, a lot of time importing, working with building rigs, hand touching, and going through a lot of rigmarole to get a human-like body into a video game or a film or whatever scenario and then start working with it. This now not only supports the full body creation, which is, again, detailed customization of faces and movement and musculature and all this sort of thing to create real, as realistic a digital human as you can think of, but also real-time animation. And you can use something as basic as a consumer webcam or a phone to create much of this. And they've illustrated this before, but they go into a little bit more detail about it. But basically, Sarah could look into a phone camera, make a bunch of faces and say, all right, Sarah, we need you to look scared. All right, now I want you to look surprised. Now I want you to laugh. I want you to do all these things. That stuff is now saved and moved in there and easily accessible, transitionable, go from crying to laughing. These kinds of things are very simple now. What used to take a long time to do, now you can do very quickly and do very realistically. And here's the biggest, craziest part of this to me. And I think this is a real, I don't know if I call it an olive leaf, but it's interesting to see Epic Games do this and the Unreal team in general. There are new licensing options that will permit the use of these MetaHumans and this technology to other engines and other creative software. So that includes Unity, Godot. These are the two biggest competitors right now in the engine business, as it were, are Unity and Godot. But this also includes Maya. It includes Houdini, Blender, which is a gigantic open source project that became kind of mainstream industry tool in the gaming business and beyond. And they're also going to let you make stuff using these tools and then selling them in Epic's Fab marketplace. They have a fabrication marketplace where the developers, otherwise people just using the engine for various uses, can go in and buy Angry Old Man in a Chair. And it's the whole thing. It's the guy being mad in the chair.
I wonder if it's like we're going to start getting the Angry Old Man Superstar, where it's like, all right, so MetaHuman creator made, the Angry Old Man that got a lot of attention. People were like, we like that one. We want to use that one. It's kind of like an actor being like, I am choosing my next movie because I got very popular on my previous movie. I wonder if we get to that point at some point.
Possibly. I think it's going to require a little more, not to overuse the word meta, but just kind of crossover, where these art forms cross over more mainstream. Like, in other words, what we're really talking about here, most of the time, is going to be a custom use case. So even if I made an angry old man in a chair,
I want the cool angry old man in a chair. Okay.
Somebody swings by and they say, "Look, I'm making an RPG. It's like an Elder Scrolls style game, and I need some NPCs, and I want to fill this tavern full of angry old men in chairs, but all of them are going to get modified. This one's going to be younger. This one's going to be less angry and a little more like he's asleep or he's drunk, and this other one's standing. And in other words, that's the kind of thing you're providing here. You're not just giving them a static thing that is always an old angry man in a chair. You're giving them the basis to build off of that or from that or to edit it.
Themes.
And in this case, if you're the creator of that, you can make a little bank doing that because you're the one making these, just like you do in 3D printing, where people will make models. People can buy those models, download those STLs, and then make their own prints. It's a very similar kind of exchange. But the bottom line, in short, for those of us who are players, viewers, watchers, whatever, and don't think even if you're not a gamer, if you watch something like The Mandalorian, this affects you. Most of that show was shot on fake Unreal backgrounds and a bunch of other Unreal assets running around doing stuff in those worlds. This is something that will get highly used in there. And this means your months and days and sometimes years of mocap shoots and reshoots could go away. That's very expensive. It's very hard to cast, all that stuff. I realize this has implications of like, well, wait a minute. If you're taking away mocap, that means you're taking away a potential gig for someone to act in a mocap job. It is doing that. It is possibly, or not in every single case, but in a lot of cases, could remove the need for going to those lengths anymore to achieve what you're trying to achieve. You can do it with a webcam, somebody who doesn't act very well, a few expressions later, and bam, you have all the rigs and everything you need to make a very believable NPC you have to interact with in your world. And for players, this just means a more immersive experience that you probably won't even notice. You'll notice it, but you'll notice it in the sense you'll go, whoa, I can't believe he looked at me like that when I answered that certain way. We're going to see more expression.
Well, he is angry after all.
He is an angry old man in a chair. Exactly. He's had it with that chair.
I'm waiting for Angry Old Man in a Chair to start making cameo appearances in all my favorite games.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, what if the movie is about the angry
It's
old
gonna be
man
the
in
new
a chair?
Stan Lee.
I mean, you never know. Like, stuff like that happens all the time. I hate to bring it up, but the skibbity toilet thing is all comes from the Half-Life engine and from, people modifying games and doing. There is a lot of crossover viral potential in all of this. But now the tool is there, so now the sky's the limit in terms of who's going to use it and how will they imagine their worlds and what will they integrate and how will they make it work and that. I think this is all very exciting from a workflow perspective. To some executives, this represents a huge cost savings. To some creatives, this may be a little bit of a double-edged sword because on the one hand, new tools at their fingertips means they can do things they couldn't do without having to hire 100 other people. Now they may not have to do that. And we're not really talking about AI stuff here. It's very different than that. So every tech conversation we have these days seems to be laced with, well, who loses a job if this happens? And I don't think this is all that different. But anyway, sorry, Rob, go ahead.
It seems to me like it's actually a really good idea that Epic is going to allow their competition to use this, because Epic is the big giant game company that has probably put out not an insignificant amount of money to come up with this.
Oh yeah.
And they can protect that investment by allowing other game devs to use it, because other game devs that have not gotten there yet says, well, that stuff that Epic's got looks pretty good. Maybe we can just license it and use it. And they're no longer working on it, because the one thing that Epic can't do, they can't work on infinite numbers of games simultaneously. But when you start to look at other game devs, their technology could still be used there to bolster the effort that they've put into this. So I think that's a really smart move, that they are going to allow their direct competition to use the same technology.
Yeah, for sure. And also I think it does, first of all, it gives them, I think that's a really good PR move for them in general. But I also think that it benefits the entire industry. All boats float, however that phrase goes. How's that go? All boats are good at floating. Anyway,
float the boat.
Floating the boats. Everybody float your boat.
All boats simultaneously.
There you go. That's kind of it. And I think that's good for the industry. And when the industry's strong, their business of Unreal the engine business, not the games they make, not Fortnite, not that. And they really aren't making too many games other than Fortnite. But Fortnite's kind of that's a monster thing.
Rising tide floats all boats.
There you go. Nailed it.
Thank you.
I think that's
Google
true. If that's what their motivation is, I agree with it, because it will only hinder adoption if I can only do it their way. And I think that them opening that up is helpful. I should mention, this is not like open source. This is still a licensing thing. Like there's nitty gritty to be seen. But overall, I think it's a smart move, and I think the end result is going to be some very cool integrated stuff that we're all going to, at least as consumers, go, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. Now, will they pass the savings on to us? Probably not. Okay,
well,
you're still going to be paying those hot new $80 game price tags, but whatever. That's what they're aiming to do.
Somebody
is cut
saves
costs.
money.
This is at least an interesting way for Epic to diversify its income stream, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, don't do that. That's a really good point. And they do this with other aspects of what they do, other parts of their engine. So the first time they've licensed out aspects of it, some physics stuff and things like that. But this is a big, very front-facing thing that will affect a lot of mid-tier devs, big AAA titles, even small indies who are just trying to make a cool game. So it'll be fun to see.
Continuing on the idea of AI in creative work, Amos, you've been exploring how this all fits into your own writing process and where you draw the line. What is your story today?
At South by Southwest London, ABBA's Björn Ulvaeus said he's using AI to co-write a musical. Not for full songs, but to spark ideas. He says it's like having another songwriter in the room, although it's lousy at lyrics. And I felt the same using AI on my novel that I'm writing. I don't know if I could qualify it as a novel, but it's definitely a long story. I find it helpful for direction and things like that. But it's really raising some questions about how to attribute credit and what are the creative boundaries for it. So for my story, what I've done is I've used it to add details to scenes, check for inconsistencies in story, which it's really good at telling you that you screwed up the plot, and for grammar and readability. The biggest help that I've found so far is using ChatGPT as a dumping block, because my ADD starts kicking in and I start getting rattled with ideas and I can't write them down fast enough, but I can speak them out and just kind of dump them into ChatGPT. It's just a full stream of consciousness. And then 20 minutes later, when I'm done talking at ChatGPT, it gives me a nice, neat summary of the notes of what I was talking about and has it all cleared up. For me, using ChatGPT in particular feels so. At CES, Rob, you had that machine where you could read the things, and it was helping with your dyslexia and made it to where it was like this experience where you just had this biggest smile on your face ever. That's kind of how I feel with the story that's been living in my head for 30 years. That I just don't have the chops to sit and write it all down. But I can describe a scene, I can describe a mood, I can say what the characters are saying, how they're saying it, and all that kind of stuff. I can put all that into ChatGPT as a scene, and then it can actually formulate that into a readable text where it can actually be used. And then I can go in there and punch things in and rewrite this, or get some more description on this. And it's been the best experience for me. And I've only been doing it for about 3 weeks now. And I'm working with my high school friend, Kent, who some people might know if they know me from my other projects. He and I were writing a story back in high school, and we just recently picked it up. And it's because ChatGPT allows me to brain dump these thoughts, and it'll formulate it into a cohesive the scene, a readable thing to where somebody else that doesn't know what's going on in my head can read it and say, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about there. That's the reason I'm able to actually get this story out. And then I asked ChatGPT, I was like, what do I use you for? And ChatGPT says, you've used me as a creative partner and continuity editor to refine, organize, and enhance the story while keeping full control of the story's voice, vision, and direction. And I think that's pretty good. But at some point, like if I do write this, finish this book and want to release it, should I say, hey, this was, modified with ChatGPT? Or if you have a story that's ghostwritten by somebody, you put their title at the bottom. But this isn't ghostwriting. This is more of a way of collecting my own thoughts and putting it down to where other people could read it, as opposed to just the jumbled mess that is in my head.
It doesn't sound like you're cutting corners on your storytelling. It's more of just, how do I, and we've all been there, right? Maybe you're driving, you're like, man, I got all these ideas. Or you wake up in the middle of the night from a dream and you're like, oh, that would be so cool. And instead of, reaching for a pen and paper or getting up to the computer to write something down, you have other options. And sometimes it can be spit back to you in a way where you're like, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. The sentence that I gave you was a little convoluted, but that actually now sparks new ideas.
So it sounds like what you're using the bot for is not to create. You're not automating the process of writing your book. What you're doing is augmenting your creative process. So I've got all these thoughts in my head. Let me get them out. I want to talk to you and tell you, here's what I'm thinking. This is all the stuff that I want to go into, into my book. And you just stream of conscious that stuff out. It's picking all of it up. It's transcribing it. And then you're using it to help you organize the thoughts. It's not writing for you. It's just a tool. Like if you were to write all this stuff down in handwritten notes, at some point you would have to correlate all that stuff and then type it in somewhere. That's not right. The typewriter or the, in the case that I'm thinking of in my head right now, that you're up in some kind of cabin somewhere and you're taking all these handwritten notes and typing them in. The typewriter is not writing the story. That's you writing the story. So in this case, ChatGPT is not writing the story. ChatGPT just took a brain dump from you and helped you organize it so that you can turn it into a story that other people would read and have some idea of what it was you were trying to get across in the first place. It's
like a word calculator in a way. We use it to take, in the way that we used to use calculators, which, by the way, in their day were pretty controversial early on, to take complex numbers and put them together and make sense of them so you could then get your work done. Well, this isn't that different. We're just doing it with words and thoughts and that sort of thing. I do think it brings up a really interesting question, though, because for some reason there is an ethical question about how much you should say about that. Like, what should he disclose this or shouldn't he? Is a question for a reason. Well, why? Like, if I use ChatGPT or anything else to correct a 2-paragraph email for spelling or grammar errors that I may have made and then send it, I'm not putting a PS. By the way, I use ChatGPT to spell check and grammar check.
You also could have been like, "Hey, Sarah, do you have like 5 minutes to like look over and spell check this?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
could
nobody
have.
cares that I did.
Nobody
that.
would have cared. Exactly. So there is this. We are grappling with this though right now for a reason, and I'm not sure where we're all going to end up, where the lines are going to be. But it's a very good point. You've got a creative endeavor that you're doing. You know, for example, just imagine this, because you know it would be a massive controversy if tomorrow Stephen King's new book that came out this week or last week, whatever it was, if word came out that he said in an interview, well, yeah, I used ChatGPT to like help me make it and describe the ways that you just described it, it would be a massive scandal. Does it need to be? I don't know. I don't know why it is, or maybe it should be, and I'm not giving it enough credit to be a bigger scandal than I think it is, or maybe it shouldn't be one at all. But why are we grappling with that? There must be a good reason. We have to figure that out.
One of the things that I've done is once in a while it'll try to continue the story for me, and I've given it specific instructions several times. Do not, if it's not written down, you should not be thinking about it. Do not project anything into the future. Don't give me an outline. Don't give me story arcs or anything else.
Yeah.
And sometimes it still tries to. It still assumes things. But I'm pretty quick about that. I've wondered, should there be a way to audit my ChatGPT project that I have put all this in there in a way to make that like almost like a proof of concept. Like, here's what I put in ChatGPT, so you can see that I didn't have it write the story for me, that I had it, change this or add this, modify this, that kind of stuff. But it never came up with a creative idea and inserted into it. It just transliterated what was going on in my head onto the written page. Should there be a way to audit that project to show that for proof of work or whatever? Like,
maybe it's like kind of like detection tools to say, yes, this photo is 100% or 94% accurately could be described as AI generated, and the guy claimed he took the photo. Like, it's maybe there. I've always thought this too. I think that we should be thinking, if we're not already, and a lot of people are, but thinking of tools that will help people navigate what is AI, what isn't. If people are making a disclosure, how accurate is their disclosure? Like, stuff that'll just hold people to account. And I don't know what the answer is in writing per se, but I think you're on the right track for what people are wanting or what they're going to want.
Yeah,
from authors like yourself or anyone else.
Because I mean, the story that's being told in the story would never have existed if I couldn't just brain dump. Because that's just not the way my brain works. I don't think the way I don't know how authors think, but I don't think that way.
Right.
I don't think linearly. I think this part, then describe this, and then I can spend half an hour describing just the room that this scene happens in. But to actually try to write that down would be just impossible for me. So
yeah, I mean, there's a whole sort of like plagiarism gray area here. Of course, someone's like, "Hey, that sounds a lot like my book." But it sounds like using something, and we talk about this on the show all the time. It's like using something as a tool that everyone has access to. I don't think that makes it like, oh, you've cheated. Everyone has access to it. It's a tool you may not need. You may just not need it. But we all work differently, especially when you're storyboarding things.
I think really we need some way of proof of work, if you will.
Yeah.
For when we use AI to help with creative works.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have that, at least not that I know of, but yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there, sort of, but it also keeps getting more complicated. What is not complicated, actually, sometimes your emails are complicated, but we want them anyway. So in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
So Matthew wrote in about smart TVs, and they say smart TVs are one of the worst things to ever happen to TV, honestly. All I really want is just a plain TV without all the smarts. I've been an Apple TV user ever since Apple released the puck-style version, and it has been the best device I've owned for the living room. Every TV in my house always gets one. The menus are so much faster and easy to use, and they never are annoying like Justin spoke about with the Samsung TV. I use Roku and the Fire TV stick, but they're slow compared to the Apple TV. I think people just overlook Apple TV because it doesn't have the cheap $20 to $30 entry price point. If you are in the Apple ecosystem, the Apple TV is such an amazing purchase.
Yeah, the other day Justin was on Monday's show. Justin was talking about like my Samsung TV. It's just so slow to get all the apps up on the screen. I don't really have that problem with my LG TV, which is relatively new. It's just over a year old. I do have an Apple TV in the bedroom with a TV that is very old, so I kind of need it in there. But I'm with you, Matthew. Not everybody wants an Apple TV, and yeah, it's not cheap. This is something that you really want to have, especially if you're going to put it in multiple rooms, because it's not $20.
I mean, in theory, the TV seems like it would be. It feels like the conversations we had about phones before we figured out smartphones. It was like, don't make it do these things. I just need a phone, or I just need a PDA. Don't combine them, or whatever. Well, we've gone way past that because now we have phones that we trust for all those things. So maybe TVs eventually get there. But my biggest beef is they're all bad. Smart TVs are bad. They don't work well. They claim a bunch of stuff, and then they're sloppy, they're slow, their updates are bad. Like, they have horrible OSs. Like, I hate my LG smart features. I would rather have that not exist in there.
So WebOS, you're not the only one. You know, in fact, when I bought my LG TV, which is, you know, it was a splurge for me. It's not the fanciest TV in the world, but I was like, this is a nice OLED. You know, never had an OLED before. A friend of mine was like, you're going to regret WebOS. And I was like, well, maybe I will. I'll just get an Apple TV, I guess. I really haven't regretted it. I also don't use it to its fullest potential. It does do kind of funny updates here and there, but not really that often. I don't know. I think mileage varies depending on what you use your TV for. If I was using 14 different apps, maybe I'd be like, this is a nightmare. But I use like 2.
Yeah. I just want, and I think Matthew was saying this as well, I just want app consistency. So I'm not using Apple TV, but I am using a Chromecast on everything. So the interface looks identical on every TV that I go to. I think I've got Chromecast on 6 different televisions in my house. So I get where Matthew's coming from.
Yeah. Well, if you've got thoughts on this and anything that we've talked about on this show, we'd like to hear from you. Your feedback is really, really important to us, and we mean that. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com is where to send that email and smash the send button. All right, Scott Johnson. We're not going to smash you. We'll smash you with kindness, like a
nice.
video game type thing.
Yeah, I
really
like
know
that.
what video game that does, but, you know, something
Super Smash Brothers? You can do Super Smash Brothers? Absolutely. I also like a good smash burger. I'll have one of those on occasion.
I had a smash burger once, and I liked it very much.
Yeah, they're very good. Smash those burgers. And also, if you were like, man, this week is so full of stuff, I don't know how to make sense of it. Don't feel bad. It's Summerfest. It's games everywhere. It's all big announcements. It's all kinds of crazy news. We're going to try to disseminate this stuff the best we can on a show we call Core. Happens every Thursday, and that's no different this week. We're going to have a regular show tomorrow, and then for the rest of the weekend, Friday through Sunday, even a little bit Monday, there are on and off streams happening all the time. We're going to do a bunch of those live, as many as we can, and try to be the one place you can come to hear your familiar voices break this stuff down. So if that sounds interesting, check out the Core podcast wherever you get your shows, or over at frogpants.com/core.
Well, thank you to you, Scott, and thank you to our listeners who have been submitting title submissions over at dtns.showbot.tv. We've got a bunch of them over there. There's looks like 45 different title submissions, a bunch of different votes. The top getter right now is Clinton Woodward's "We Love Big Wiggle."
And you cannot lie.
Yes. So we have a theme today. Let's see. Zoe Brings Bacon chimes in with ASMR antenna wiggle.
Yep.
Let's see here. I'm not sure what this name is. I wear lederhosen. Scott wiggles that thing.
Yeah, he does.
I like that one. Let's see. Clinton Woodward has another good one. Pun intended.
Nice.
Puns are sometimes intended. That is true. Yeah.
So, Sarah, what did we decide to go with?
Well, it was a tough one today, Rob, but we went with JPEG 84's "Put Your Face in the Game."
That's a good one.
Get it? You know, get in the
that's a good
game
one.
with your face specifically, especially if you're an old man and you're mad and you're sitting in a chair in a bar somewhere and there's like 30 other guys there too.
So here's a question for the four of us. Do we want to lend our face to Epic so that we could potentially be the old man or the 29-year-old woman in the chair?
Well, the idea
For
is
a
that
price,
you could
absolutely.
you could go in there right now, download all this stuff, and you could do that in 5 or 6 clicks in a simple webcam. So you literally could do what you just asked in no time with no cost. Would you want others to use it? I mean, then you get into likeness licensing and all of that. But if you wanted to go do it yourself and stick yourself in, mod yourself into some, I don't know, Fallout 4, you could do it today. That's
What if
the
I
thing.
just wanted to be an old man on a chair at a dock where people like to go swimming for special fish?
Well, you could do that too. I mean, I'm
What
literally
special
living
fish?
this. I'm not getting any younger. I'm in a chair. I was a little grumpy earlier today. I'm all those things right now. I'm just not digital.
I
I'm
feel
physical.
like an old man in a chair a lot. I mean,
It can
I'm
happen.
old and I'm in a chair, so
Can
I'm,
happen
you know,
to the
I'm
best
getting
of
there.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
Sarah, that was a Lake Run reference.
Yeah.
oh, okay. See, I don't
long
know.
story.
I don't know what you guys are talking about half the time.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you to everybody for submitting show titles. It's the fun part of the last part of the show. But we also like to thank folks, right, Amos?
Yeah, we got Zoe Brings Bacon cheering us with 4 bits, and I'm not sure if this was covered yesterday, but Delta Forge Games gave us a follow, and Jimmy the Brush gave us a shout out with 61 viewers of their own.
Wee. All right. Well, thanks to one and all for all your support, and big shout out to our patrons. We could not do the show without you.
Folks, if you'd like a recap of the week's tech headlines with insights into how technology affects and disaffects African Americans, and check out the Check John, that's where I, Robb Dunewood, Stephanie Humphrey, and Terrence Gaines dive into the top tech stories of the week, delivered from points of view you don't always hear in mainstream media. New episodes land on Tuesdays. Find it wherever you get your podcast or visit the tech. That's the tech, JAWN.com.
Reminder, we are live on the show. If you're watching us live, you already know this, but we are going live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. In fact, a little bit ahead of that because you get a little pre-show from us now. That's 2000 UTC as well. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We are back doing it all again tomorrow with Andrea Jones-Rooy talking about the AI revolution in aquaculture. More fish. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.